And I just want to cover a few things in putting it all together. So first of all, I want to say a few thank yous. Thanks again, as Stephen said at the beginning, to our sponsors and our supporters. Your contribution is incredibly helpful, and we really appreciate that. And lots of people are involved in organising and putting together an event like this. I'm not going to name names, there's too many to mention. But you know who you are, and others know who's put the time and effort in, and it's been a really excellent conference again, I think. So thank you very much indeed for all of those, and indeed also all of the contributors and panellists and speakers who've come along. We've had a fantastic lineup this morning of so many great people from different backgrounds who've taken the time out, and I think we've all benefited enormously from that. So a massive thank you from all of us here to the organisers, the sponsors, and the participants and speakers. Thank you. What I'm not going to try and do is sort of recap everything you've heard this morning. We've cantered through incredibly broad range of topics, but I'll give you a few observations of my own. You know, we started this morning hearing about the world of politics, and I thought we got some very different perspectives, obviously different points of view, and it was, even in a very short, brief time, I think Steve gave us a kind of good overview about what's up for grabs this year and what may or may not happen. We're largely going to be bystanders and observers in those processes. What will be, and I don't think anyone in this room is going to have a sort of fundamental influence on some of the outcome of those things. But what we can expect is a sort of more change, more volatility, as was said in the last session. And I think we got a flavour this morning of actually how best to tackle that. You know, the world we're in has opportunity and threat. And sectors and businesses and industries and organisations that are kind of getting on with things and preparing for those things and being positive are more likely to take advantage of opportunities and less likely to be hit by the threats. And there seems to be a bit of a mindset point, whether you're an individual, whether you're an organisation, whether you're an association, whether you're the broader advertising industries, of how we kind of tackle those issues. We cover quite a lot of economic stuff today, this morning. We've seen some forecasts, we've seen some data. Actually, we should be pretty confident based on some of that data, actually. The point about confidence has been raised a few times. But in truth, we are a highly successful set of industries, or industries advertising, that continues to grow very strongly. And certainly a year ago, I didn't think we'd be growing 3% last year. I think that's not particularly shared view by anyone a year ago. And what we've seen is a situation where in the UK we're still £22 billion, we're growing to record levels, we're leveraging, perhaps less efficiently than some other countries in Europe, but actually in terms of overall scale, 120 billion for the economy. We've got that net export-import upside coming through. We account for 1 million jobs. There's lots of economic reasons to be confident. And my personal view is that notwithstanding the uncertainty of Brexit, notwithstanding the political options that may or may not happen, I think fundamentally the economics of advertising in its widest sense will carry on in pretty good state, actually, at least in the short to medium term. The big issue in town, it seems to me, which we've also touched on, particularly in the second half of the morning, is this issue about responsibility. And is actually, will we continue to have the freedom and the right to advertise? And do we keep that public trust? And when I first became president 4 years ago, for me, that was the number one issue. And I look back over the last 4 years, and I think we've made some progress, and there's some good foundations that weren't in place a few years ago. But by no means has that battle been won. And I thought Nick brought that out strongly in his session, actually. And in reality, it's all to play for, and it does matter to everyone in this room. So where the Advertising Association plays its role is in the broad umbrella of the whole industry. We're there for the rights, the roles, the responsibilities of all advertising. We're there through the prism of the individual, through the prism of society as a whole, and as well as the economics piece, the actual kind of social piece. And it seems to me that there will be squabbles and legitimate competition between different sectors of the industry. You know, digital will put its best foot forward, television will put its best foot forward. Sectors will fight each other for advertising share. Advertisers will make their choices about where they think the best place to put their advertising money is. Agencies will try and work with advertisers and clients in the best way. But the strength of the Advertising Association is it does actually genuinely sit across all of that. And it is the agencies and the advertisers and the clients. But at its heart, I think a consumer point of view is the most important one. And if we actually look at the data, it's a bit of a mixed bag on where we are with the public. It's quite good that MPs' trust is higher than it was. That's great. What Stephen didn't show is actually MPs' trust in self-regulation's gone down a bit. And it's quite a complex world, actually. We've got some latest consumer trust figures coming through that I think Credos will be unveiling shortly. Again, it's a bit of a mixed picture, I think. But the long-term gain has to be how do we retain and build trust from the public over time. And as we look back over the last few years, there's been some great new opportunities and new things coming through with technology and so on and so forth, but there are also some challenges. And for me, one of the very important things we haven't focused on much this morning, but I hope by this time next year we will be, is this new work stream that Stephen mentioned at the beginning around responsibility and the trust and favourability in advertising. And it's being jointly led by Phil from ISBAR and Paul from IPA. And that's an incredibly important work stream. What is it we can do collectively across the whole wider set of industries that can really make a significant impact into public trust? And I sort of take your battle analogy that you mentioned earlier. Some of it's about the trenches for sure. Some of it's about individuals and organisations doing their own thing, but some of it's also about the Air Force and a bit of Navy in there somewhere. There's big picture. What is it we can collectively do that absolutely makes sure we retain public trust going forward? And keeping a consumer perspective in all of that is going to be very important. So I hope you found this morning stimulating. I certainly have. I've learned some new stuff. I've been made to think about things I haven't thought about before, and just getting those very different perspectives. But as we've kind of delved into the political world, the economic world, the kind of world of our own advertising industry, I would just encourage all of us to keep that sense of consumer perspective and public perspective and work together, which is when we're at our best, over and above the individual sector competition, work together on some of these issues as we go forward. So I just wanted to finish up really with a thank you to all of you. Thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. And there are so many people in this industry who actually put time into the wider good of the whole industry, which is fantastic. It's a real strength. We're not arguing amongst ourselves like they are in the States, I think. I think all the associations are kind of battling together. But people get the bigger picture. So thank you for the time you put in the last year, and in anticipation of you continuing to get engaged in the year ahead. I know the team at the Advertising Association who do such great work will welcome that, but thanks in advance for all the time and energy you're going to carry on putting in the year ahead as well. So thanks again for coming. Enjoy your lunch. Hope you've enjoyed it.